Great to see so many familiar faces here today. I'm Danny Turner. I have lots of different hats. One of my hats is I'm a organic cherry fruit orchard grower with my family in Creston. My other hat is I'm the delivery executive for the Basin Business Advisors Program, which is funded by the Trust. And so today I'm going to take these two hats and put them together and give you a talk about my journey to value add my farm products and why I think that that's something that every primary producer can do and what we need from our retailers to make it work in our region. Now, before I get started, I have to confess that I rewrote this last night. So I went over it with my team yesterday and they told me loud and clear, 100%, Danny, there's too much math in your presentation. You're gonna have people come in, give them coffee, and then you're gonna give them a math class for 45 minutes, and you're gonna lose them. You need to tell a story. So I got to the hotel last night and I threw the slides out that I had and I started over. And so instead, I'm gonna tell you a story about my journey from primary to value add. And my story starts with these guys. So these are pigs. Wonderful pigs, and they're in Fresh Valley Farms in Armstrong, BC, which isn't even in the Basin. But that doesn't matter for this story. And to be honest, the pigs don't really matter either. These pigs live at Fresh Valley Farms in Armstrong, BC. And the guy that does matter, this guy. This is Steve Meggett and his partner Annalise, and they own Fresh Valley Farms in Armstrong. And Steve and I were working in the Young Agrarians program back in 2015, and I was helping him write his business plan for his CSA program and what he was gonna put in his box and how much he was gonna charge and how many customers, all the usual CSA stuff. And we were working on all of that, and on the side, I also had this other problem on my farm back in Creston, which was, what am I gonna do with all these cherries? Dump trucks and dump trucks full of like rotten or semi-rotten or culled cherries or splits or too smalls or all the sort of stuff that doesn't make it to Canada #1. And there was another guy called Remo that was running around with a mobile juice press in the Okanagan. And Remo and I had this idea that maybe we would take these cherries and try and do something with them. And Steve volunteered to let me use his pig farm to try this out, because Remo didn't want to come all the way to Creston for just me. Makes sense. So we had to put all our cherries in a 3-ton truck, drive them all to Armstrong, and we sat on Steve's pig farm for 3 days, and we did some value added. Now, Steve is a hero, but he's not the real hero. The real hero of my story is this guy. This is my son, Alec, and he's 8 in this picture, and this is in 2015. And he came with me, and Alec and I spent 3 days doing this. This was something very special and something that we had never done before, something very new to the Kootenays. We took these garbage Rainier cherries, brown stems, 2 white, pit, bird peck, a little bit of rot, and we put them through Remo's machine and we got this out the other end, cherry mash. And this was magical, because once I took these and turned them into this, I had so many options for what I could do. Jump forward 2 years later, and we have this. So with the support of the Trust, local government, provincial government, we took that cherry mash idea and we bought the machine from Remo and we brought it to the Kootenays and we started the Kootenay Mobile Press Fields Forward. What did we do with that? Oh wait, I've lost my window. Damon, it's giving me an error message. Oh man, Macs. I told him this morning I've never used a Mac in my life. I get on video calls with clients and they have Macs, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? I don't know how to deal with these Macs. And you're talking to them, and suddenly you're gonna, like, their iPhone will ring, and they'll pop that up, and it like blocks the call. I'm sure those of you with Macs have all experienced this. Are we hooped? Well, without my slides, I don't know what I'm gonna do. So now you're gonna have to listen to me talk. So we took this press. Let me describe what it does. You put a bin in there. The bin dumps in here. It goes up here, gets crunched and mushed, and the pits and stones and everything get dropped out. And then it ends up down over here in another bin, the mash. Then we take that mash and we put it in a tank and we separate it with an enzyme. And then we draw the juice. And then we run it through the machine again. There's a pasteurizer over here. Many of you have probably seen this, I hope, and are familiar with the process. And then we take that pasteurizer, and we make juice. Are we good? Okay, so here's what we did with that machine, with the products from my farm. We did this. So this is 3-liter bag-in-a-box juice at Farrar Foods in Rossland. And we did this. This is the same product at Pilos, Independent, in Creston. Merchandise right beside President's Choice National brand. And we did this. Put that same product into the Kootenai Co-op. K-Stacks, for those of you that are familiar with retail. Pile it high, watch it fly. Very, very, very valuable real estate from the co-op to do this. And then we did the next thing. We did this. We started putting it in glass bottles. Again, these are moonshine jugs at Pilos Independent with the juice in them. Nice label, nice everything. And now I have a product line that looks like this. So I've got my glass bottle products. We started drying apples. We started drying cherries. Hopefully you've seen some of these products in some of the stores around the region. We did all of this because in 2015, Steve let me and my little boy Alec come to his pig farm and make cherry mash for fun. It was magical. So now we have 12 different juice products. It all started with the work we did on that day on the pig farm. And this is where we've ended up. This is the Kootenai Farms Food Hub in Creston. And you've probably seen this picture. It was in the media from the grand opening. We've taken that initial day on the pig farm and we've created this out of it. We have a real sustainable thing. 8 years later, that's my kid. Not a kid anymore. He's all grown up. We have 5 apple juice SKUs. We have 4 cherry juice SKUs. We've got 3 blended juice SKUs. We've got our dried apple chips and our dried cherry. 14 SKUs that I now value add my products from my farm, all built from our day at the pig farm. So, my message today for all of you is this. Primary food producers have an opportunity to increase the value of their local food products by entering the on-farm or small-scale processing sector. It's doable, it's possible. I've done it. You can do it. We can all do it. It's going to increase the capacity of the local food in our region. So what do we mean by value add? Let's get into the nuts and bolts of the presentation. And unfortunately, in this chapter, there is a little bit of math. Not a lot. I couldn't take it all out. I had to leave some in. Can't do anything without math. What do we mean by value add? Many of you know this, but I think we tend to overthink what value add means. This is what it means to me. You take a raw product and you make it more valuable. That's all you do. So first thing you can do is increase the price charge, okay? The second thing you can do is increase the total volume you sell. And the third thing you can do with value add is increase the market size you can sell into. So you get more money for every unit of product. You sell more product because you have more products to sell. And you can sell to more customers because you can ship to bigger markets. So what does this mean in reality? Let's take a look at a fresh apple example. So over here, this is a bin of apples from my place. They're unpolished, they're unsorted, they're ungraded. This is not a value-added product. This is a raw product. If I take that into most grocery stores and say, hey, will you sell my apples? They'll say, probably not really. Okay, so I can take that bin and I can do this to it. I can clean them up, I can sort them, and I can put them in these 20-pound handy packs, put them on a skid, wrap it up. Now I can sell that to a grocery store. I gotta sell them as orchard run grade, but I can still sell them. And I can go into a produce buyer and show this product, and they can understand it, and they'll buy it. I've value added that product. I've taken that raw thing, and just by putting it in these boxes, I've value added it. I have more markets to sell to, and I'm gonna get more price per pound in this box than I will if I try and push that whole bin. And then I can even go one step further, and I can go over here, and I put those same apples in bags. These are bags from my farm, and they have, where's the UPC? They have there's a UPC on it, right? They have the grade, Canada #1, they have the nutrition facts, they have all the things. So now I can take those apples, value add them to here, and I can sell this to pretty much any grocery store or retailer in Canada. So by doing this value add step, I take those raw apples and I get a product that I can sell anywhere. So this is really simple, and not everybody in this room is apple farmers. So let's consider a food value chain. You guys asleep yet? So this is a value chain for food. Most food value chains have maybe 7 or 8 steps in them, okay? And each step, as you move along the way, you add value to the food. It gets more valuable as you move along. Most food in your kitchen has followed this process. And our objective as producers is to get the most value we can out of this value chain. So it starts down here at the farm, it goes to the processing, goes to the distributor, goes on a truck, then it goes to a store or a restaurant, then it goes in someone's car, either in their stomachs or in their shopping bag, and then finally it ends up at their house. And the product has the most value up here in the kitchen. And it has the least value down here at the farm. And as you move along, it gets more and more valuable. So what does maximum value for the producer look like? So we have a parallel economy for small and local food, farmers market and food box delivery and stuff like that. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to end run the value chain by going directly to the consumer. We go to the farmer's market, they come, they buy directly from the farmer. We get a food box program going where we do the deliveries for them and they grab it. So this is an optimal value chain because the food is going from the farm at its max quality to the customer, and the customer is paying the max price back to the farm. So the farmer gets 100% of the money and the customer gets 100% of the value. Here's the problem. We all know this. If I'm going to the farmer's market, I get 1 day per week. But for most markets, I get maybe 26 weeks a year, which means I only have 26 selling days per year, and here's the math, right? So if there's 363 days available to sell products, and I'm only selling for 26 of them, then that means I'm only really in 7% of the market. And you can argue with my math, so I go to year-round market, or I sell a bottled product or something like that, and I buy it all, and it's all right, but this is for me. This was my thought process. Because back in 2015, this was me. So this is me at the 104th Street Market in Edmonton. There's my kids again. That was a Saturday market, ran for 16 to 20 weeks a year. And there I am, and I'm selling stuff that I have, right? And yeah, if I was lucky, I'd make $2,000 on that day. And I would sell for 16 days. That was my whole year at this market. That wasn't sustainable. I wasn't going to make my farm work because I was trapped in this local food curve. So this is the local food curve. This is where your value is as primary producers, May to November for most of us. This is the whole market. And if we're successful every week, this is the only market we get, is this. All the rest of it is not available to us because we're not selling into it. So our goal is to capture the rest of the other 93%. And so our strategy is the usual tactics. We add farmers market days, we go to more markets, so we can go from 26 days to 52 days if we go to 2 markets a week. We can diversify crops, we can add things so we can sell more products, we can plant earlier stuff. I planted a bunch of asparagus so I could get stuff earlier in the year. Maybe we find year-round indoor markets that we can use for selling old apples at or something like that. That's what we do. Or we do something which is becoming more and more common, is you partner with other producers and they take your stuff to this market and you take their stuff to this market, and you guys kind of, you partner and you work together to kind of extend your coverage. Again, the problem with this strategy is that all you're really doing is expanding this one curve, right? It's still the same curve. It just might be slightly bigger, but you're still out of the market, and there's a bunch of unaddressable market up top. So what does value add do? We move the needle. We add it on top. I'm not saying we stop the fresh. I certainly sell a lot of fresh product, but I add the value on top, and it gives me product all year round, gives me more to sell in the peak season. It makes my business much larger, makes my potential market coverage much bigger. And by layering on value add, you get a step change in your business. So if we go back to my message for today, primary food producers have an opportunity, blah, 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 blah. But there's more to it than that. To be successful, these new processors need the support of local retailers and restaurants to list and promote these products. It's not just up to the producers. It's a partnership. It's a partnership between the producer, processor, and the seller. Without both parties at the table, value add will never, ever work. Has to be a partnership. So I'd like to introduce you to someone, this guy. You already know him. Oh, look, I'm wearing the same sweater. Yeah, and some new clothes, hey? At least I'm wearing different pants. Same haircut, though. What a loser. This is Brian Pilo. Brian Pilo moved to Creston, 2017, 2018, took over the Extra Foods as an independent Loblaws franchise, rebranded it, and ever since then has been my partner in building my local food and my value added. And this is a picture that was taken for a press release that we got in, I think it was in all the papers, where we were launching this product, which I showed you earlier, in his store. Brian is a hero of local food in our region. He's a leader because he's taking the power of Loblaws and he's combining it with his partnerships with local producers, and he's starting to help us build volume and build product that we can sell. Right. So here's our challenge. This is why we need the retailer, restaurant to be our partner. People already eat food. That's our problem. We don't make anything different from national brands. It may be local, the quality may be better, but people are already buying our competitors' food. We're not inventing new food. So our strategy with local food is to substitute the products that we have for the imported products. When I say import, I mean import into our region. We call that import substitution. We also call it national brand swap outs. So I make a value-added product, and when the customer comes to the store, I need them to choose my product over the national brand product. I'm not going to sell them both. They have to choose. And I need the retailer to help the customer make that choice. Let's go back to the food value chain. So this value chain is very efficient, extremely efficient. This is a machine. Anyone who's been on the Trans-Canada or the QE2 on a Sunday and has seen all the food trucks going east, dozens and dozens of 18-wheelers full of food going east. This is an incredibly efficient supply chain. It's very competitive. And what that means is because of that scale and volume, the prices are also very competitive. So we can't just switch in our products. We're competing with national brand marketing spend. We're competing with planogram programming. We just can't compete on price. It's not going to happen. We can't compete on efficiency. So what we need is we need the local retailers to be an advocate for our products. So how do we build a partnership? We have to own our part, and we have to partner for the rest. So we know where we fit, And we know where we need partners to fit. And so what I've done is I've just drawn for me what mine looks like. I own these pieces, and Brian owns these pieces. He has a store, he owns the customer, I've got the farm, I get it processed, I organize the deliveries, and he does the front end. In order for this to work, you have to know which boxes are yours, and you have to understand the costs associated at each step. And by doing that, you can recognize the value that both people in the partnership are bringing into the value chain, because every step is worth margin. Every time you move something through the value chain, you have to give the participant of that step margin. You have to pay them. They need to get paid. All the money's coming from here. And so as you back up, you're giving away margin at every step until you get down to here. And so this is a common challenge for primary producers that are trying to get into processing as well. Why do I have to give the grocery store 40%? Why do I have to give a distributor 30%? This is why. Because it's a partnership, and they're doing parts of it, and you're doing parts of it. And the goal isn't to capture 100% anymore. Our goal is to get flow, to become efficient, to get those products moving through the value chain. So, how can retailers lead in this space? The first thing is to have a local food strategy. So retailers that are just like bolting on local products to their regular categories are not going to be successful. You can't just add another jar of pickles and a sea of pickles. It just doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. Local food needs to be a standalone category in your store. It has to be. It needs focus. It needs store-level merchandising. It needs shelf talkers. It needs point of sale. And we need to recognize that local food is more expensive. There's just no way around it. We cannot be as efficient as national banners. We can't. That Trans-Canada machine of 18-wheelers heading east every week, we will never be able to compete with that. So the value proposition has to be substituting the imports for local product, not competing on price. This is key for retailers. We want to build flow. So 2016, 2017, 2018, I'm trying to get these products going. I'm trying to force it. It's not working. And the reason why is because I was using this push strategy. It's ad hoc push, we call it. And it always starts with a price list. How many times do you call a customer and say, I have this, and the first question they ask you is, send me a price list. How much does it cost? That's an opportunity buy. They're looking for a one-time transaction. I'm going to get a deal from you. I'm going to put it on the shelf. And that may work. You may get the listing. You may get it on the shelf. But then you fall into something that I call first-order syndrome, right? And that means you deliver the product to the retailer. It sits there. It dates off. And then any future orders are ad hoc. You're sitting by the phone waiting for it to ring. Are they going to order more? Did they sell it? I don't really know what's going on. And then ultimately, because the shelf space in the stores is so valuable, the product just gets dropped. There's no flow. There's no turns. It's not happening. So when we move to this other thing called scalable pull strategy, this is where we stimulate the consumer demand first. We start by building demand for the product before we put it in the store. And we embrace local messaging. Local food, category level messaging. We know which national product we're trying to substitute, and our messages are built around that local alternative. We start getting turns are selling, we start getting cases moving, and then we start sharing sales data. So Brian is incredibly transparent with me about how the product's turning in his store. He tells me exactly what's happening. There's no mystery, there's no negotiating or anything like that, because we already decided in the value chain who was getting what, so we don't need to fight over it anymore. Instead, we're a partner, and we are trying to get turns, and we're trying to get volumes, right? We leverage promotions, we leverage seasonal, we leverage in-store marketing, and by doing this, we can build a sustainable flow where the product moves through the store, is demand-led, we're not pushing it, and the orders are regular. So I can build my value chain to know how much product I'm going to need when, and I can make sure I have everything lined up to get that product moving. So How partnerships win. Planning, strategy, communication, win-win. Plan your local food offering. You get a comprehensive marketing strategy that includes both the producer and the retailer. And then you communicate on wins and on losses. If something doesn't work, you admit it doesn't work, you move on. If something blows the doors open, you do more of that. And fundamentally at the start, we have to be okay with making less margin because it's going to be expensive. There's going to be transaction costs. We're going to throw product away. We're going to make stuff that nobody wants. So if we know we're going to make less margin, we can set realistic targets for turns, we can set realistic targets for flow, orders, and we can set realistic targets for import substitutions. All right. So we started this whole thing with this mobile press. I had this video. This is the first time we operated the press at my farm doing apples. There go the apples. Cull apples going in the tank. There's the belt press. This is all happening on my farm. You see my cherry trees behind? And this is Stephen filling the bags. Very first bags we ever made on my farm. And there they are going into the box. This works. People want local food. We already have lots. We really do. But we can make more through value adding. And we have retailers in the Basin who want to sell more local food, building partnerships with them, figuring out what win-win looks like, sharing the risk, sharing the reward, and building the flow is how we can win. We have all the pieces in place we need. So my challenge to everyone here is who will be next? We've got buyers, we've got sellers, we've got people to help. Who's going to be the next guy or girl or producer or whoever to stand up, value add their products, and start building flow into the local food system?